Alrighty, good Wednesday afternoon. Welcome into the Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Great to have you along. A lot to get to. Cavaliers, it goes up for real tonight as they take on the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn. We'll be talking some Cavaliers a little bit later in the show as we get ready for this all-important campaign. What will the season look like? What will the beginning of the season look like, including tonight, with some of the new faces and some of the adjustments and some of the schematic changes as far as J.B. Bickerstaff's concerned. We'll talk about that. World Series, it's Arizona. We got way ahead of ourselves, me included. Philadelphia's got this one. Philadelphia's up 2-0. Just like the NFL, any given Sunday, there's a reason they play the games. And, well, your World Series is set. The Texas Rangers representing the American League and the Arizona Diamondbacks representing the National League. Hey, more power to them. You know, you get it going at the right time, as I'm sure Booney will say here in about an hour when he joins us, as he does every Wednesday. Here we are. So that World Series will get underway on Friday. I don't know what, as we begin the show, I don't know what we tend to have bigger developments on, or I don't even know if it's a development, but it's like I wake up every day and the first thing I'm doing is, checking headlines, checking developments, breaking news, all that sort of thing. But it's like, okay, what's Deshaun's status? Is there anything that happened late yesterday, early today? And then checking Jim Harbaugh's status and what has changed there. And there has some more that has come out about that investigation, which we'll get into a little bit later. But we're going to start with Deshaun Watson. He did not address the media today. He normally does on Wednesdays. I would guess, Bohm, right now, as we sit here, you got 3 days to practice, including today. It doesn't seem like he's going to practice today. He's not playing on Sunday. I don't. And now we're to the point where, and this is very important, we're to the point now, what are we, 7 games into the season, 8 weeks into the season, where I mentioned this on Monday, like he's not practicing a whole lot. He's not playing a whole lot. So this isn't one of those situations where, you have a veteran quarterback or quarterback that's been with you for a while that knows your offense, that is, and you're just telling him, hey, take it easy this week. And you have confidence that if he's ready to go on Sunday, that he'll be fine and you'll be fine as an offense. That's not the case here. Matter of fact, make the case it's just the opposite, exactly the opposite. He's not getting practice time. He hasn't looked good. He looked horrible in the very small sample size until the injury, or until, he got knocked out of the game and then was cleared, and Kevin Stefanski said no, which was probably the right decision. The bottom line is you don't have confidence in this guy. I don't have confidence in this guy. Boom, do you have confidence in this guy?
Very little.
Okay, Kevin Stefanski probably doesn't have confidence in this guy. Andrew Berry doesn't have confidence in this guy. His teammates probably don't have confidence in him. This is not to say that they're rallying against him and they don't. It's not that at all. I think all in all, they like the guy as a person, as a teammate. I would too if they were, boom. If you decided to foot the bill on a 10-day cruise to the Virgin Islands, I would, you'd go up in my book a little bit.
And I do think that a lot of his teammates and coaches have to be empathetic to his situation, because he just physically, like his condition right now, he has no juice on the ball.
I'm not in I'll be honest with you, Bohm. I'm not in an empathetic mood. I mean, I like, yes, they're empathetic to the situation. You want to see your buddy at his best. You want to see your buddy do well. But ultimately, like, this is what makes them the Warriors they are. Not to shoot you down, but I could sense you're in that, in that little, well, I'm sure they feel bad. Yeah, I'm sure they do too. But you know what? Right now, their focus is on Seattle. Their focus is on getting to 5-2. And if you're not with us, then, good luck. See ya. Let's go. Next guy up. Unfortunately, the next guy up is
If
PJ
you don't wear
Walker.
orange and brown, you don't matter.
That was Freddie Kitchens, for those of you wondering.
Yes.
That was good.
It felt relevant.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I wish him the best. I hope he gets healthy. I think right now what we're trying to figure out is not necessarily the week-to-week thing. Like, what do you do? He supposedly had a new MRI, okay, that this was, I think, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. A new MRI that had no new damage to it, which is good news. But the reality is he's still dealing with pain in the rotator cuff, and I don't doubt that one bit. But, what's the bigger issue for Browns fans? The pain in his shoulder or the lack of confidence right now? And I know you can say, well, I don't think it's that. No, that's playing a role too. I think it's playing a bigger role. I think even if he's healthy, I don't know how effective he is. And that ultimately right now is what makes this the most frustrating. If you know what you have, okay, if you know what you have and you're not getting that because the guy just can't go because he is legitimately injured, okay. But it's just, and for Browns fans, I think we're just tired of living in gray area, okay? I'm tired of living in gray area. I'm tired of living in one giant question mark. And that's not to say it's anybody's fault per se, but that's just how I feel. So, Bohm, I understand what you're saying. Like, I'm sure they're all empathetic to his situation to a point. But, like, the thing that sucks, like I said, a guy like Nick Chubb, who gives his heart and soul, and it is without a doubt the heart and soul of his team, hell, of this city. Even he right now is kind of on an island. It doesn't mean that anybody, Nick Chubb's hurt. It's just the football season and getting ready week to week. That's a full day. I mean, you got a full day's work, practice and meetings and film and meetings and lifting and it's nonstop. Once that gun goes off in week one, save for a bye week, maybe a long week if you play on a Thursday. I mean, it's action packed. Unless you're hurt, and then you're just kind of on the outside looking in, but your teammates have a job to do. And that's, you want them to have that attitude. I just, as far as Deshaun Watson's future, I don't know what the best course of action is. Do you put him on IR? I mean, this is where I hope, and I'm sure they're talking to doctors, and they're saying, okay, if we put him on IR right now, and we don't make it for the entire season, we put him on IR, I think it's minimum 4 games. And by the way, if that terminology is old terminology, it's a new, IR, whatever, dash, then forgive me. But if they put him on IR, he misses 4 games, but has surgery, are the doctors confident that he has the surgery and in a 4-week span, 5-week span, he's going to come back and he's going to be healthy? I'm not saying he's going to be a great quarterback, because there's more involved right now. But first and foremost, can he do the job? Can he perform his duties as a quarterback in the NFL? And right now, from an arm strength standpoint, from a structural standpoint, velocity standpoint, all that stuff, he can't. Like I said, where this is frustrating is PJ Walker's not the answer. Okay, he's not. Now, you say you lose your quarterback and you're never going to be in a good situation. I totally agree with that. But, the bottom line is you don't have a Josh Dobbs. You tried Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I tell you, and I've heard this now, rumblings the last couple of days, Boom. The last couple of days, I've heard rumblings of, what about Dorian Thompson-Robinson if he's getting groomed to play, has like a full week? Because in his defense, I know he was running some of the practices, but in his defense, he had no idea he was playing until about 90 minutes before kickoff. So we're starting to hear rumblings about, well, what if you get Dorian Thompson-Robinson up to speed and he gets the advantage of a full week? I don't know. Again, I could sit here and act like I have answers for everybody, but I don't. I don't even know if they do. I don't think anybody knows, including Deshaun Watson, where to go with this thing. Now, the good news is you're 4-2. Okay, you're 4-2. You very well could be 2-4. I laugh now. It's so funny when it happens to other teams. Now Jim Irsay's come out and made the comments about the officiating, and then I see Trey Wingo quote tweet him, and he's like, "Yeah, it's about time somebody." Okay, well, you guys didn't seem to want to do that or have the urgency to do that when the Browns were getting that call every Tuesday. And I'm not disputing that there were some crappy calls. But let's just be real. When it was happening to Cleveland last year, nobody was blinking an eye except here in Northeast Ohio. Now Jim Irsay makes a stink about it, and now we got Trey Wingo and every other media outlet going, this is something that needs to be looked at. It's egregious. It is. Welcome to the other end of it. Welcome to the other side of it. As far as Jacoby Brissett, I don't know. I think he's a viable option. And yes, part of that viable option is the fact that he's played here. It's not that I expect Jacoby Brissett to come in and just wow everybody, but you have something in place on the defensive side of the ball that you at least want to give them a chance to win you games. And the only way you truly give them a chance to win games, sometimes they're going to do it anyway because they're that great and they have that ability. But the only way you give them that opportunity to win the games is you don't put them in a compromised situation. In other words, you don't give, their offense, the opposing offense, and this week, Seattle, you don't give Seattle 1st and 10 at the Browns' 22-yard line because he threw a pick. And I can't say I trust that from P.J. Walker. I can't say I trust that from Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Sadly, I can't say I trust that from Deshaun Watson, but I don't think he's really a story right now because he's not even healthy, and I don't think he's going to play anytime soon. So that is where we're at with the Browns. Deshaun Watson, again, if you're just tuning in, his shoulder still bothering him. Got a new MRI. This was, I believe, yesterday, according to NFL Network, and the MRI revealed nothing further, no more damage, but that he is indeed, I believe it was the scapula sudorisus scur that he has micro tears in, and I don't know. Does that heal if you have surgery? Does it heal up faster, or I don't know.
So yesterday I heard from this was like a former college ball pitcher who had that same diagnosed injury. And he said the treatment for it was resting it and then certain physical therapy using bands.
Yeah.
Not throwing at all until it's healed, because when you're throwing with it, your arm is dead. Like they physically were incapable of pitching because you lose so much from it. And I think that was evident from Deshaun. He's not recovered yet. He needs more time.
Well, and he needs more time. But again, to my point, does that timeline? This is where we're at now. We know he needs time. It's how much time? Is he done for the rest of the year? I don't think you can. Nobody wants to go through, and I don't think logistically you can continue each and every week going, well, we're going to hope that Deshaun's ready for Sunday, and then get to Sunday, and is he ready? Nope, doesn't feel good. All right, we're going. You can't do that. I mean, it's not fair to the guy who is playing the quarterback position, whether it be Walker, DTR, or somebody not yet named, and it's not fair to the rest of the team. So this is where I think you start having the conversations about, does he go on the injured reserve list? Have you had, I'm sure they have, conversations about surgery, and if he goes under the knife, how long is he out for? All that kind of thing is, again, still way up in the air. This is going to be, this Seattle game, I think, is a classic case of, you can absolutely win this game, but if you're to this, we know through 7-8 weeks of the NFL, and I think you know it anyway in the NFL these days, but anything can happen. Anything does happen. New England beats Buffalo. San Francisco loses to Minnesota and Kirk Cousins. And, I mean, anything. No one's untouchable. So the Browns going on the road and playing at Seattle, where, Seattle didn't look good against Arizona. Seattle is, though, 4-2. Seattle does have a quarterback that can move around a little bit. Arizona only pressured Geno Smith 6 times. I would think that number would pretty much double, easily double, depending on how the game goes, but would easily double coming from Jim Schwartz and the Browns. But this is setting up to be exactly one of those games where you can win the game, but the formula to win is what it's been now since Deshaun's been out. The defense plays lights out, or is giving you, turnovers like they did last week, although giving up a lot of yards. But they have a great outing, and then the offense does just enough to win, and sometimes just enough to win is just not doing enough to lose as far as turning the ball over. That's where we're at. All right, Chico Borman Show on this Wednesday. Good to have you along. We are live streaming on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. You can also find us on YouTube. Go over to YouTube, type in the Chico Borman Show, hit subscribe if you have not already, and you'll be set to go. We, of course, wherever you get your podcast, you can find us there, whether it be Spotify, whether it be Apple, and, of course, streaming live on iHeartRadio. Type in Big Play, and you can catch the show live. You can catch Matt Fontana live as well. He precedes me 9 to 11, and then we'll have replays throughout the day. Brett Boone will join us coming up in the second hour of the program, as he does each and every Wednesday. It is Texas. It is Arizona in the World Series, so we'll get Boone's thoughts on that. All right, moving on this Wednesday, the other big news story of the day, and this is a feel-good story of the day. Cavaliers begin the 2023 campaign in Brooklyn.
Feel good for now. I'm just kidding.
Well, it amazes me, like, how you, like, in some cases, you go to the ends of the earth. Like, even the Deshaun thing, like, yeah, but Chico, I think his teammates are empathetic to the shoulder. And then I mentioned the Cavs. They're 0-0. They're coming off a 51-win season, and, yes, a very, very disappointing playoff loss to the New York Knicks. And I mentioned how it's a feel-good story. You're ready for the season beginning. You're like, for now.
It's my love of dark humor, Chico.
I'm excited about the Cavaliers.
Me too.
Shut up, Bohm. You're not.
I am. I said I was kidding, damn it.
Yeah, I know. One of the things I'm curious to see, in addition to just the obvious, like the schematic changes, the pace and space, and Max Strus, George Niang, and hopefully having the ability to space the floor, find those guys, opening up lanes for Donovan and Darius, and also having those guys knock down those shots is just, how much patience is going to be required too. Because, there is going to be that, I guess, feel out process for everybody involved. And you can play in the preseason and you can, have workouts together. But until, it's the regular season, until it's, the bullets are flying for real, all of a sudden you get a rebound. Are you immediately pushing that ball up the floor? Is that every single time you're looking to do that? Only certain times? At some point, and this is where all great teams, when you have the guys that can, push the envelope and you have the guys that can shoot the basketball, they could close their eyes and know where each other's at on the floor. Well, it's not fair to expect the new look Cavaliers with some of these new additions to be on the same page, and vice versa, Donovan and Darius Garland. So, I mean, it might take a little while. The first part of the schedule is a little tough. But I'm excited. And I think the question that I have going into this season for fans is what we mentioned this for the Browns. I know it's kind of one of those layup questions, but what is success for the Cavaliers? Like, I thought it was very poignant that last week when we had Mitch Lawrence on, and he kind of, and Mitch knows I love him, but he was, I wouldn't say down on the Cavs, but he's like, yeah, I'm not buying in, and I don't know if Kobe Altman and they got the right core, and people can question that. That's fine. The bottom line is we won't know until the end of the season. And I remember saying to him, I'm like, because he said he had him like sixth, and not really, maybe an entrance into the playoffs, and if so, quick exit. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'd go that far. And he immediately said, well, so what are you saying? They're the Eastern Conference Finals? No. It takes patience. Like, we forget Denver last year, who, by the way, knocked off LeBron and Anthony Davis and the Lakers. Denver with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, it took a little while. That wasn't just an overnight thing. And the Cavs, like, I like the way this team's built. I know it lends itself. The problem with the way this team's built is it lends itself to impatience, knee-jerk reaction, which is somewhat normal, but sometimes it's also not warranted. Like, we need to give them this season and then make make a decision on where they're at. We need to see how this new system plays out. We need to see how JB's able to, change the recipe when he has new ingredients. And are the Cavs tougher, physically tougher, mentally tougher? We'll know that during the regular season, but we'll especially know that during the postseason, for which there is no substitute. And if you listen to the show at all or watch the show, I've said that 500 times. There is no substitute for playoff basketball, playoff experience, and a true series where you have to go on the road in another team's barn. And last year it was the barn of all barns that that players on this team would struggle with in Madison Square Garden. So we can't make that decision on, well, is this core right? Is Kobe Altman the right guy? Is JB Bickerstaff? We got to let this season play out. But I think this is going to be fun. I think you have unselfish guys on this team. And, I opened the show, or maybe it was before the show. It was before the show. I was making fun of James Harden. And I feel like, and this is normal. We do this as fans. I feel like first of all, I know we want everything now. We want to just throw it in the microwave, time cook, 45 seconds, done, championship, parade, let's go. All right, fine. Doesn't work that way. And then if you're not going to do it that way, well, you want to bring in the superstar. And, if you bring in a guy like LeBron James, as they did, again, and then you win a championship, as they did for the first time, in franchise history in 2016, and just an incredible year. You can do that, But more often than not, when they talk about like the superstars and bringing, look what's going on around the league. I mean, James Harden. They're telling James Harden, he showed up at the 76ers complex or practice facility, and they sent him home. They're like, just go home. You said you want to be traded. We don't want you. Is he about to be traded? Is this a discipline thing? I don't know. But that's what you're getting. Like, everybody just assumes, like, oh, you got to bring those stars together until the stars are bigger than anything else, or at least think they are bigger than anything else, and then it plays out as such. With the Cavaliers, you don't have that. I'm not saying that this is a championship right now, ready to win a championship team, but just because that's not the case doesn't mean that last year A was a failure and that this core can't develop into what Denver was able to develop. And, I know it sucks. We talk about patience all the time, but, I mean, this city has been fine giving the Browns 25 years. The Cavaliers made some pretty rough decisions for a while. The Cavs were in some dark places for a while. Now they have one of the youngest rosters, but one of the most talented rosters. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna look at that. I'd rather see the glass half full with that than I would the glass half empty. And I feel like a lot of fans out there would rather go that glass half empty route. Like, oh, Kobe's not. I mean, we heard it after the playoffs. They wanted J.B. Bickerstaff fired. Oh, J.B. Bickerstaff can only take the team so far. See, there's the evidence. Well, I mean, they needed some pieces. They also needed playoff experience. Donovan Mitchell, hey, yeah. I mean, everybody hopefully learned something, but I didn't see a fracturing from this team. And I remember using that term a lot last year in the postseason and after the postseason. You're looking for anything, any sort of division, any sort of, back and forth, bickering, unhappiness. It wasn't there. They were clearly unhappy with the way they played, and they should have been. I mean, they were embarrassed by the Knicks. Embarrassed. But this is a young core, and, Donovan Mitchell. Well, we'll see how this season goes and whether or not an extension's in the offing, but you got to let this season play out. But in the meantime, how can you not be excited after some years where it was just in the basement, dark, dreary, awful, nothing to look forward to? How can you not be excited when looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers and seeing a young core that hopefully is only going to get better? And even if they don't, if they get, if they get to the second round, and I hate to put numbers on it and series on it and things like that, but like to use Mitch Lawrence's example, oh, so you get to the second round, you're okay with that? Well, okay, I got to see how it plays out. Like, did they get bullied again? Were there, clearly were there big issues in terms of shooting the basketball, and were they not physical enough, all that stuff? But if they make it to the second round and they go the distance in a second round series and they fall short, that happens. That's not to say I don't want to. This should we put too much emphasis on, like, well, they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, let's be honest. There were people saying that the year that they tried to get into the play-in game, and they did get into the play-in game, where they had all the injuries late, and it sounded good, like, hey, anything can happen. But again, hopefully last year was just a refresher of the fact that playoff basketball is completely different. So, I feel like there's a lot of skepticism with this team, and I get it, because I know that New York Knicks series really kind of, it wasn't just bad. It wasn't just you got ousted. It was you got embarrassed. You got taken behind a woodshed. You had your own guys, Jared Allen in this case, basically saying, yeah, the lights were too bright, the stage was too big. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah, that's kind of, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to see that. But, you got to give them some time. They're young, they're talented, They have guys that want to be there. They have guys that are unselfish. Evan Mobley, I think, is a superstar in the making. Is he there yet completely? No. But is it okay to say I'm kind of excited to watch him get better and better? Is it okay to say that, yeah, I know he's not a complete a finished product offensively, but that I kind of like the process of, I like the process of being able to watch that happen. Instead of it's got to happen right now, it's got to happen this year. They got to win the finals. They got to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they don't, you got to blow it up. No. And looking around the NBA right now, looking at some of these superstars that want to play or don't want to play, and minutes, and if you don't, contracts mean nothing. That's the other thing. Like Giannis just signed that big extension. And, by the way, he kind of let them know, like, get me some help. They did, and he answered in return, and he's going to be there. Here's the thing about the NBA. The contracts mean nothing because the player, if they really want out, as we've seen, they'll force their way out. Now, James Harden is an extreme addition of that, extreme example of that, but the contracts don't necessarily mean much. And so we put so much emphasis on what didn't happen last year and then what followed, and Donovan Mitchell playing golf with Allen Houston, and then he didn't sign an option, and it was like, oh, my God, trade him, get rid of this. Kobe's not your guy. J.B. Bickerstaff is in over his head. You got to blow this up. And that was all probably within about a 72-hour span of the last playoff game against the New York Knicks. Well, now time is come and gone. We're getting ready for a new season. Yes, Bohm, what do you, as you're twirling your hair and doing whatever you're doing over there? What?
Nothing. I was just off in La La Land.
Yeah, what do you, when you're off in La La Land with your head back and you're smiling, what are you doing?
Sometimes brainstorming fair or foul questions.
Yeah, don't do that. See, that's half the problem with fair or foul, is that you use this time right now to come up with fair or foul. I mean, something is on the fly, something happens on the fly, but you legitimately use this time to partly set up today's show and get ready for fair or foul.
Not always.
You can't 90% of the time.
No, that's not true.
Feel free to prepare beforehand, get here beforehand, and actually use the show to follow along and not be like, this is Bohm for the last 5 minutes. He's like this. And so I don't know, is he tripping? I don't know what's going on. He's just looking at the ceiling, big grin on his face. Did he just get a text message from whatever her name is? Lana. What's her name?
That would be wild. Lana Del Rey.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, I would start freaking out. I would just I would probably stop.
What does you freaking out look like, Bohm?
I can't even enact it. It's just you'd have to be real. I would just be ecstatic.
Because see, I've had
unless she was leave me alone, don't ever talk to me again.
And that has happened too. I just feel like, I don't think people understand, because I've been asked a few times, man, what do you ever get mad at Bohm? I go, no, I don't get mad at Bohm. I get a little frustrated with him at times. And they're like, well, I notice when you say what, Bohm, what's so fun? Well, that's he's not looking at me and smiling. So I don't know that it's not something that I said that he disagrees with or agrees with and wants to chime in. He's totally kicked back in the chair. He literally is like this. He's what is there, what's going on in the ceiling? I have no idea. But it's good to have you, Bohm. It's good to have you.
To be fair, I did come in with a few fair or foul questions. I just wanted to acquire more ammo.
By the way, I was out last Friday, so we were. I'm all ready. Put it this way: I am already prepared, ready to add some if need be, but already prepared for inverse fair or foul, which is still 48 hours away.
Are they just last week's questions?
No.
Okay.
No, these are no. I don't see. That's what I'm saying. I don't operate like you, Bone. Well, actually, you wouldn't have last week's questions
Right,
because last week's questions would have been drummed up during the show if there was a show, because that's how you roll. We're trying to change the, we're trying to put you in a routine. You need to go to basic training, I think.
Like the military?
Yes, like you need a daily regiment routine. It's not a referendum on your skills. I mean, there's some things that I think you do very well, but like you just kind of like, what'd you think of that? What? I'm off in La La Land. What? Fair or foul here? What? All right, we are going to take a break. We are going to have fair or foul. Booney, top of the hour. I can't blame him. I'm going to blame myself. I thought Philadelphia, I thought they were on cruise control making it to the World Series, but did not happen. And hats off to Arizona. I mean, nobody expected them not only to be in the playoffs, but then Philly goes up 2-0, and it was like, okay, well, that was fun while it lasted, Arizona. Enjoy the fall. Enjoy the golf courses and vacation. We'll see you next year. And then Arizona said, you know what? We're not ready to go just yet. And ended up knocking off the Phils. So we'll talk to Booney coming up in the second hour of the show. Also in the second hour of the show, yes, believe it or not, more updates on Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. And one thing that I said yesterday, I'm starting to get reinforcement on, and which is why I'm thinking that we're getting a decision sooner rather than later. We'll talk about that coming up around 1:20. But we'll take a break. When we come back, fair or foul on this Wednesday, the Chico Borman Show. More to come on the Big Play Sports Network. Wednesday, Chico Mormon Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Good to have you along. Coming up top of the hour, we will go around the diamond. Then there were two as we are ready for the Fall Classic. Texas Rangers, Arizona Diamondbacks, and Brett Boone, the former All-Star second baseman, will join us. By the way, a name emerging for the Guardians as far as that managerial position, which we will get to as well a little bit later on. Well, you don't have to look like your dog died if it was in fair or foul. Like, and see, your ability to pivot is not very, like, it's okay. But anyway, yeah, we're going to get into that as well because Booney, I know, knows the guy, if he's the guy, and we'll address that coming up in a little bit. But right now, it's a very well-prepared, very well-thought-out, very detailed edition of Fair or Foul with Mr. Bone Bass.
All right, Chico. Well, so you don't want me to ask you about that Guardians?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You can, but I mean,
Okay.
but see, your question is going to be something like, so Fair or Foul, he'll be the guy to lead them to a World Series.
More so, are you on the Steven Vogt bandwagon? Is that someone that you feel like you can get behind as Guardians manager?
I mean, I can because I can see where they're going with it. He's a younger guy. He relates well, to younger guys. And even when he was playing, a lot of guys, whether it was with the A's or wherever, said, you can tell he's going to be a manager. And he's a catcher, former catcher. That always helps because they feel like they've got a better. So yeah, there's so many, not so many, but there's the schools of thought of bring in an older guy, established guy. I just bring in your guy that you think fits. And for a team like the Guardians, it's a huge deal because that's what people took for granted with Tito. For how many years? The people that didn't understand how he was able to balance that. So you hope a guy, whoever it is, whether it's a 40-year-old Steven Vogt or a 60-some-year-old Bob Melvin, I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I totally get behind that.
Yeah, and I didn't. I wasn't aware that Booney knew him. I was hoping you would ask him about Vogt because. I am fascinated to hear.
Doesn't know very well.
Okay,
but he spent some time in the A's front office, kind of as a scout or analyst, whatever you want to call it. And so he knows Steven, and he just said everything you're hearing about him is true. Really, really good guy. He just has a good feel for everything. So
yeah, and that's to your point about him being a catcher. I think those guys have to have a better feel than anyone.
Well, I don't mean from a baseball feel. I mean just a person that. And that's what I'm saying. With Tito, he had that. Some guys call that a player's manager. Call it whatever you want. But I kind of like the fact that he's younger. I don't think I don't look either way and say, oh, well, if he's a certain age, young or old, can't do the job. So I don't know. We'll see if he's the guy. You got to wait, 3 days after the World Series ends, I think, before they can make a decision or make it official. So we'll see. We'll talk to Booney about it coming up in a little bit.
Only time will tell, Chico. Well, I want to move on to the NFL, talk a little Browns with you. Obviously, that secondary got gashed for a number of reasons. Not playing complimentary football fully. I think they had to be out there on the field for an awful long time. And then Downs was cooking them on some of those routes. I want to ask you, because it feels like to me this might be the toughest test that Brown secondary has to face so far this season. Now, we don't know the status of DK Metcalf. He's still up in the air. But you've also got Tyler Lockett, JSN, and then Josh Bobo has really stepped up.
Is Lockett playing?
I thought he was.
Last week, all it was Jackson
Smith and Jigba and Josh Bobo.
Yeah, I'm almost. I don't even. I don't. I mean, look, they're going to be a test. I don't look at San Francisco, or excuse me, at Seattle, and think that,
I would definitely take a healthy Seattle
if DK Metcalf returns, yeah, but while Bobo and Jackson Smith and Jigba were very, very good. Yeah, he did play. Okay, he had 4 for 38.
Yeah, as far as I know, he was healthy.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a huge test or anything.
Okay, so then with that said, Chico, let's say even hypothetically if DK was back, fair or foul, you expecting a bounce back for this Browns secondary?
Yeah, I think adjustments will be made. Nick brought up a great point, as he does every week in the Bold Ball Breakdown, Tuesdays at noon, saying that that what they wanted to do with that man coverage is run basically have a lot of traffic in front of those guys to try to, I don't want to say confuse. It's not a confusion issue. You lose track of a guy, you lose sight of a guy. Easier to do that. And Shane Steichen made a concerted effort to do it and did it. Now, can you do the same thing? Can Seattle do the same thing with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Bobo and Lockett? Maybe DK returns. We'll see. Yeah, I'm sure they could, but I think Jim Schwartz is aware of things they need to clean up as well. And the other thing is Geno Smith against Arizona was really not pressured at all. I don't anticipate that being the case on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. The pressure is going to make a huge difference. But I want to circle back to the diamond now, Chico, because I totally forgot about this. Did you see what Chris Mad Dog Russo said? The proclamation that he made.
Is he retired now?
I don't know, but I think he has a show at 3 p.m. today. And so maybe it'll all be revealed then. Now, if I were Mad Dog, I'd probably just go on vacation today and throw everyone for a loop, make them think he actually retired. But he said he would retire if the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies in Game 7. Fair or foul, Mad Dog has to retire.
I mean, I'm going to say foul, but see, this is one of those, especially in New York, right? Gimmick radio, and whether you've worked for or been around people that have worked in New York, and it's just to each his own. That gimmicky crap sometimes plays. Oh, hey, I'm gonna retire if the Phillies don't win. Oh man, now is Russo gonna show up, or what's gonna happen? He'll probably show up to work. He might be on. A lot of times, I used to love back in the day when I was growing up, and it really was you'd hear about a guy, Cat Thomas from Power 108, wasn't on this week. And, he had it out with the program director, with the boss, and we don't know if Cat Thomas is going to be back. And so for a full week, you'd be calling the station where's Cat Thomas? If the boss isn't good, I'm never going to listen again. And then all of a sudden, you find out, you realize years later, Cat, that was just part of, when you get in the business, that was part of the bit. He was on vacation for a week. They decided to have some fun, and yeah. I don't think that's what this is. I mean, he said what he said, but I didn't really pay a whole lot of mind to it. But yeah, I did hear about it.
All right, Chico. Well, next one I want to ask you about is Doc Rivers was interviewed on the Dan Patrick Show.
I saw this.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Asking him which player frustrated him more between James Harden, and Ben Simmons. And he basically said he kind of was leaning towards James Harden only because James had actually had game, is essentially what he said. And when he played, we were great. Ben was frustrating a whole different way. I didn't have the frustration with Ben, thinking if Ben did this, we could win it. That's the quote on Ben Simmons. Fair or foul, Chico? If you're Ben Simmons, you have to fire back. I mean, I feel like he just threw him in the dirt there.
No, I don't think.
Do you think that those comments
foul? I don't think Ben Simmons needs to fire back.
Do you think those comments are overly critical?
No,
I mean, he has been.
No,
disappointing.
I think he's being honest. I think is what Doc Rivers is saying is he's not saying that. I mean, of the two, who's proven more? James Harden. So that's basically what he's saying. And he's also. I mean, I listened to the interview. I watched the interview. It was much bigger than that. He actually said. James Harden didn't make the All-Star team, remember? And when he didn't make the All-Star team, and to me, this was the most revealing. This tells you all you need to know about James Harden. So he doesn't make the All-Star team. They come back for the second half, and he apparently told Doc, "Hey, I want to don't put me in the starting lineup anymore. I want to run with the second unit." Meaning, and by the way, his stat line, like, he wasn't scoring as much, but he was, rebounding and moving the offense and 7, 8, 9 assists a game. I mean, he was really filling the stat sheet. Well, then he didn't make the All-Star game. Then he felt his feelings were hurt. And then he said, "Oh, you know what? Wait a minute, Doc. When we get back for the second half, I want to run with the second unit, head up the second unit, which means, read between the lines, I want more shots. I want to score more because that's the only thing that matters." So, like, he went from, hey, you know what? Whatever it takes to win. If I don't get as many points and many shots tonight, that's fine. But I'm going to go out and, I'm going to distribute the basketball. I'm going to rebound the basketball. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to help the team win. And then when I realized I'm not getting recognition across the league, well, then put me back as just a scorer. Like, he is the epitome of me. And I think that's why Doc was frustrated more than anything. Ben Simmons hasn't proven anything. I mean, so, yeah, it makes sense that that's the way he said it. Now, I mean, you can say overly. I don't think it was overly critical because, like I said, he's a big boy. He's a professional basketball player. He's getting a lot of money.
I thought it was real, Chico. I mean, it's definitely, I'm sure if I'm Ben Simmons, it's hurtful, but it's real. And with that said, my last question here,
yes.
I want to ask, as far as Harden, I feel like if I'm a team looking for someone to trade for, James Harden is just untouchable. Not from the perspective of, like, they're asking for too much in Philadelphia, but, like, I want no part of him in my city playing for my organization because he's a bona fide locker room cancer.
Yeah, but you know what? We say it all the time. All it takes is one, and there will be one. And
you think so?
I think, like, yeah, I mean, now he wants – this is why I was saying earlier about NBA contracts. Like, NBA contracts – and I'm not saying this necessarily as Giannis. That's not fair. But, like, NBA contracts compared to other sports don't mean a damn thing. Like, oh, he signed a 3-year, $500 million contract and with the 2 he already has. But guess what? In 2 years, if he doesn't want to be there and makes these stupid demands, they allow that. That's just how they're set up. I think a team like the Clippers, which is where he's saying he wants to go, I think what this boils down to is the Clippers say, look, Daryl Morey, I know that he doesn't want to be there. We'll give you something for him, but it's not going to be anywhere near what you want. Just take what you can, cut your losses, and say goodbye. And that's ultimately James Harden knows that. I think everybody knows that. It'll happen sooner rather than later.
And that is fair or foul.
That is fair or foul, Bohm. Bohm, did you see Alec Bohm last night?
You know I did. Oh, man. The only runs came courtesy of Alec Bohm.
Your cousin Alec. Have you talked to him yet, Bohm?
No, I haven't reached out to him yet.
Okay. Speaking of reaching out, we're going to reach out to our buddy Brett Boone. He's a former pro player, former all-star second baseman. He's host of the Brett Boone podcast as we get ready for the World Series, the Fall Classic, as they call it. Friday, it will get underway. It is Texas, and it is Arizona. I don't say that like, oh, I'm upset it's Arizona. Let me put my headphones on because I'm going to need to hear what Booney has to say. Yes, Boone. What's the matter? Can I? Yeah, I can hear me. Yeah, I can. I don't say that because I'm not excited to see Arizona. It is the World Series, but it felt like Philly and Texas was going to be like the juggernaut series, the best series. But you can't at the same time, Booney, discount, and you know better than anybody, 84 wins. Nobody even picked them in their own division in the regular season, let alone for the playoffs. And now here they are in the World Series. It is a great story if, in fact, it's one that we didn't necessarily anticipate.
I think resilience is the word.
These look at you wordsmith.
Against all odds. And they're probably sick of us talking about how big of an underdog they are at this point. They've just, they swept the first two series. They just took it to a game 7. And if anybody out there, any baseball analyst worth his salt, a week ago said, "Yeah, I knew Arizona was going to win." You're lying. There's no chance. Philadelphia, biggest home field advantage, just optically, in this postseason. They won those first. It was like the Beatles at a Beatles concert, and Arizona had no chance. They were down 2-0. People didn't even think it was going to get back to Philadelphia. They take 2 out of 3 in Arizona, and they come back into as hostile an environment as they can and win 2. This is not only a great story, but I tip my cap to that ball club. There's something special about it. They never doubted themselves, and what they just did is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Anybody playing that Phillies, that red hot Phillies club at this stage in the postseason, you're up against a beast, and they and they quieted the beast. There's my wordsmith coming in again.
Wow.
Really remarkable. I just had, and it'll be out today. You know, here's some advertising, which I never do, but I just finished and I just put it out. Podcast with Trevor Hoffman.
Nice.
I wanted to get his take on the pitching side of the postseason and how bullpens can change because next, all of a sudden you have this bullpen. There's some weird guys and they hang out together and they 162 games. They have rituals and there's a pecking order in that bullpen and there's a way to it. All of a sudden, the postseason that gets turned upside down. Sometimes you got third, fourth, fifth starters hanging out in the bullpen and it gets thrown into a flux. But I had some interesting questions. He had some great answers. As a hitter, and I've been trying to dissect this postseason, Chico. As a hitter, what do I not like? Well, I don't like having Trevor at the end of the game, and especially if he's got a formidable seventh, eighth inning guy that's reliable. I don't like having a Mariano at the end of a game. I don't like having a Billy Wagner at the end of the game. I think if you put it into modern day times, it's a guy you have there in Cleveland in Clase, a Bautista in Baltimore, a Duran in Minnesota. Things that if you get to the ninth, yeah, you're going to get them once in a while, but the game's pretty much over. I've looked at this postseason and all the teams that got deep into the postseason. None of those teams had that. You had Kimbrel's situation in Philadelphia,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
they lost all confidence in the middle of that series where he wasn't even a factor down the stretch for the Phillies. They were kind of piecemealing that bullpen together. You go to Texas, you've got Aroldis Chapman, who's one of the best closers of this modern era. He's not even a closer on that Texas team anymore because they don't trust him enough. They're kind of putting him in the eighth inning sometimes. Leclerc has stepped up as a young player and added some stability, but by no means is Leclerc that go to 100%. You're getting the deal done. The only team that has had that in this entire postseason for me is the Arizona Diamondbacks.
And the guy they
And
got at the trade deadline.
And they took him from my Mariners.
Yep. I knew it. Yep.
Seawald he's got the invisible going. Ginkel setting him up has been money. Neither one of them have given up a run. So basically, they play the game. It's a short game for them. And they know if they have a lead in the seventh, they're probably going to win the game. They're the only team that has had that stability in that bullpen. And I think that's a major reason. Now, obviously, there's other reasons. Fott stepped up. Miller pitched a great game. There's been a lot of heroes on that side. Corbin Carroll, who's going to be the rookie of the year, didn't have a very good series until game 7. He showed up, got some big hits, stole some big bags. Marte was the MVP. He was kind of the go-to guy. Perdomo, the shortstop's getting big hits. And this kid all of a sudden, he's 23 years old. He's their catcher. He's never hit third in his life, was inserted in that 3-hole. And man, did he come up with some big hits in big situations. My hat's off to them. I questioned, and I don't think myself, but I think a lot of people questioned some of Torey Lovello's moves, taking Miller out in the 5th when he just struck out 2 in the 5th. And Miller's looking at him like, Skip, are you kidding me? You're taking me out right now? It worked out. Every move Torey's made, and a lot of them analytically driven, have worked out. So I give credit where credit's due. This team's not there by fluke. They played the game right. They got it done. And I was looking at that dugout yesterday. Think of all the antics we see in today's game, all the celebrations. Uh, and I looked at that Arizona dugout yesterday, and they were just in accordance. The camera would pan on them, and there were about 6 of them all lined up in a row and just clapping for their team. And I'm going,
Golf clap.
this was awesome because they completely flipped the script. Nobody gave them a chance of beating these mighty, mighty Phillies. They go into Philly. Not only do they beat game 6, but going into game 7, they kind of had that smile on their face like, oh, yeah, we're not even supposed to be here, media. That's what you tell us. That's what the baseball world tells us. We're not even supposed to be there. And all of a sudden, it was almost like they were as relaxed as could be. We've got nothing to lose. Philly's got everything to lose because no way they lose this series.
And see, that's where, Booney, I think teams, look, we see this with the great teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, and we roll our eyes every year when, like, they get back there. And I get it. Athletes are looking for any motivation they can, any edge they can get. So you'll always hear, even the ones that are not even close to being underdogs go, well, nobody believed we'd get here. Well, no, everybody believed you'd get here. So I think Arizona, while they might feel slighted and like kind of like, well, take that. I think they embrace it. Like, if anything, I think you embrace being an underdog. I don't think you ever really get tired of hearing that you don't have a chance, because it's like, yeah, feel me some more. Give me something more to want to, and I know baseball's different a little bit because, you don't just run out there and hit the tight end over the middle and set the tone for a ball game. But I think you play on that. Good for them. That's what sports is all about. If you can put it together at the right time, and that's what they're doing. I think you embrace it. I think Arizona has embraced it.
They have, and on paper they didn't line up against anybody, any of their opponents in the postseason. And on paper, analyzing it, they didn't match up well with any of them. I thought, except for the end of that bullpen. But from a star power perspective, when you're rolling out Wheeler, Nola, and they're rolling out Fott, a rookie, they're rolling out Miller, had a really good year this year. It just didn't match up. The home run power of a Harper and a Schwarber and a Real Muto and a Castellanos compared to their lineup from a power perspective didn't line up. The home field advantage in Philly didn't line up, but against all odds, they're still standing, and it's pretty awesome. Go to the other side, Texas, Houston. What a great matchup that was.
Adolis Garcia, my God, this guy. What?
And another thing with Houston, which is why I thought in the end Houston was going to win that series, is because of that bullpen. Because they had a Presley sitting at the end, who is money. And when the game is, you've got the lead in the 7th, pretty much it's over and Houston wins those ball games. But they got flipped. Texas won. I'm happy for Boch. And I'm not sad about Dusty. Dusty's had such a great run. He's going to walk away from the game after an unprecedented run. So much he's added to the game. You're still going to see Dusty. I guarantee you he'll be in the baseball world in some capacity. What a great run for him, and I tip my cap to him for his, not only his playing career but his managerial year and what he's meant to the game. But I'm also happy for my buddy Bruce Bochy. Steps away for health reasons a few years ago, gets a call from a Chris Young, who's the young general manager or the new general manager for the Texas Rangers, signs up with them. And the next thing you know, he's just in another World Series. No big deal. Garcia, you mentioned, unbelievable. He only has 20 ribbies in the postseason, 15 in that last series. A lot of drama, but they got through it all. He won the MVP, and Texas is moving on. This should be a really interesting series that nobody expected.
I want to get back to for a second to the Rangers situation and Adolis Garcia. This is a guy that, Booney, not long ago, he was like available for, and I mean, not that he's the only, you hear these stories a lot. Like, well, this guy was David Ortiz wasn't exactly, David Ortiz when he's with the Twins, and Nelson Cruz, and on and on and on. But like Adolis Garcia was available. He was out there for everybody to claim, and then Texas nabs him, and he turns into a star. Can you take me through, like, I mean, obviously the talent's there, but what is it that take us through, like the switch, the light bulb that goes on for a guy that goes from, boy, we know it's in there somewhere, but you know what? You just can't get it done, haven't gotten it done, to, all right, all of a sudden he's an ALCS MVP.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Finally got the opportunity. The skill set's there, obviously. He's one of the strongest guys in the game. I remember watching him early in the season and go, man, he's got some thunder going through the zone from a bat speed perspective. Opportunity, and he's taken full advantage of it. Hit 39 home runs this year. Obviously, the postseason speaks for itself. And I'll admit, throughout, there was a lot of drama surrounding. He's a pretty colorful guy, maybe a little too colorful for my likings at times. He got drilled. I to this day, I don't care what anybody says. My eyes tell me, my experience tells me, Abreu squared him up on purpose, without a doubt. And
yeah, I agree.
Next game, he strikes out 4 times, and I laugh because you hear the Twitter mob. Oh, he's swinging for the fences. These as layman terms and phrases can be brought out. I know what was going through his body. Night before he hits that home runs off Justin Verlander. It was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. To me, little much of a celebration. I don't care what Verlander says. You can celebrate. That didn't sit well with him. And I just know from personal experience, I know what those bullpen guys do. They sit down in that bullpen, and when you disrespect their guy, it's not like we hold up a sign or there's a meeting about what's going to go down. Those bullpen guys have minds of their own, and they take care of business. Now, as a player, 2-run game, postseason, not the time or the place for that. But I've seen I've gotten drilled a lot. I've gotten drilled on purpose. I've gotten drilled by accident. You can tell the difference, especially when you're in the batter's box. I know when it's on purpose, and I know when, hey, he's just trying to throw me a 2-seamer inside, he gets away. That to me, and you're not going to be able to convince me otherwise, and I don't care what all the talking points that everybody says. Oh, of course we weren't trying to drill him. It's a 2-run game. Well, you have to say that. But you're not going to convince me otherwise. He drilled him on purpose. And next thing you know, not only do they get away with it on the Houston side, but Altuve hits the walk-off to win the game. Now, Garcia, how are you feeling that night on the pillow? You're a little bit like,
set up my guy.
Right. He's not feeling right. He's feeling a little guilty, maybe.
Yeah.
He's trying a little hard, and I know that feeling. When you've got that anxiety going on inside and everything's running at Mach 10, that's how you swing. And it appears like, oh, he's trying to hit a home run. No, I'm trying to survive, and this is my body's way of showing you this is how I'm trying to. He struck out 4 times in a row, and then all of a sudden he gets a cookie, his 5th at bat. Happens to, at that point, I'll guarantee you, if you asked him, interviewed him, and said, give me an honest answer, he would have taken contact in any capacity, a pop-up, a ground ball, anything. It just so happens that he hit a grand slam. And that kind of woke up the beast. And then the next day, he did it again. And the next thing you know, he's holding the hardware. You know what no one talked about, Chico? And I'm laughing to this point.
What's that?
Let's talk about that little 104-mile-an-hour square up that Chapman laid on what's his name?
I don't.
Outfielder.
Yeah,
McCormick.
I don't. Chas McCormick. I don't care where that hit.
Gosh.
Well, I do care where it hits you, but I heard some people saying like, "Well, it's on a part of the lake." It's 104. It's 104.
No, where he got hit, that hurts, and I'll guarantee you check out McCormick today.
He still has that
big
stamp.
And black and blue mark as you've ever seen, and that was on purpose. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you don't think Chapman's going to take care of his boy Garcia? And I think there was a little history with McCormick and Chapman that goes way back. Once again, underlying themes that we in the media not always are privy to. That we ask, why would you do that in that situation? Well, the guys have their reasons for it. Anyway, they gave us their share of drama in that series, and in the end, Texas came out on top. Arizona, and once again, I just think this is a series that nobody expected, but I'm really intrigued, and I'm gonna be watching every down, every inning of this World Series. I think it's great.
So what's
And,
I got to get a prediction from you, which we've all been bad. I mean, I've been horrible.
Right. I've been horrible. Who's been good? I've got this home, because I've got 27 kids that live with me. We've got this little, in-house.
Sean Kemp.
No, we've got this in-house. Every round I round up all the kids and I go, who do you like? We got Texas and Houston. Everybody puts their pick in. I'm telling you, this last pick, my gut, everything inside me told me, as much as I love Boch, Houston's going to beat the Texas Rangers and the Phillies are going to beat the Arizona Diamondbacks. So what did I put on my piece of paper? I took Arizona, Texas, and I'm a winner. So I'm going to make this pick. Not because I believe it. Arizona Diamondbacks are World Series champions.
I mean, I think Texas should be the favorite, but at this point,
Arizona, they're still playing that. They've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They're as confident and as dangerous as any. They are as relaxed as any team out there right now. Those guys are just having quality at bats. Those pitchers are feeling pretty good about themselves. And I'll tell you, the end of that bullpen, that organization's feeling I as a player, with what I saw last night, Ginkel, and we're talking about Seawald because Seawald's got the invisible going. They're just not seeing that fastball. That's why it's not all about velocity. We're in a velo era where, he throws 97. Do people realize it doesn't matter how hard you throw? As a big league player, I don't care how hard you throw. If you leave a pitch out over the plate, I am going to kill you. And it doesn't matter how hard you throw.
Whether you're Jenny McCarthy or
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's the pitchers that locate. Seawald's throwing 93. But I'll guarantee you ask the hitters
Jenny
that are
Finch.
facing
I'm
him
sorry.
recently.
Why did I say Jenny McCarthy, Bohm? What the? I
McCarthy,
meant Jenny Finch.
That was that MTV show years
ago.
Yeah,
what? Come on.
But it doesn't matter how hard you throw. That's my point.
Yeah.
It's Seawald, what he's doing. Ask the players facing him right now. I don't care if it's 93. I don't see it. I'm not picking it up. I'm picking it up late. It's deceptive. It's hitting your spots. Ginkel was unbelievable last night. He came in the 8th inning. He didn't make a bad pitch, Chico.
Yeah.
Every fastball was on a corner. Every breaking ball had a purpose. There were none left in the middle of the plate, on top of the fact that his stuff was real sharp. But just the location of the pitches. I still am one that, as a hitter, when a guy comes in and makes that many quality pitches in a row, I stand up and go, that's pitching. That's how you neutralize bats. It's not with great stuff, because great stuff can be left in the middle of the plate. The way Ginkel come in and methodically, notice those breaking balls. They had a purpose. They were buried. He threw when he had to throw it for a strike, it was on a corner. When he was ahead in the count, he had that same tilt on his slider, but he left it out of the zone for a swing and miss pitch. He was awesome. Seawald's awesome. That's the one advantage I give Arizona, is deep in that bullpen. If Arizona can find a way to get a lead, they're feeling pretty good about closing the deal.
All right, he's Brett Boone, former All-Star second baseman, host of the Brett Boone podcast. Get to that in a second. One last thing for you, buddy. There are a lot of reports coming out that possibly one name has rocketed to the top of the Guardians list to replace Tito Francona, that being Stephen Vogt. I know you have some time in Oakland as far as, with them as were you a scout? Basically, or consultant,
I was the special
coach,
assistant.
special
I
assistant,
spent, I spent a lot of time. My year and a half there, I spent the majority of my time in the minor league level, teaching at low levels. I mean, those were some fun times. You know,
Mhm.
I had Olson and Chapman, and they
Oh,
were an A ball back at the time, and that's who I spent most of my time with. But once in a while, during spring training, they say, Booney, will you go up and coach first base? You know, we got a split squad today. So I'd go up, and I knew a couple of those A's that were in the big leagues in 14 and 15. And Stephen Vogt was on that team. And he's everything that you hear as far as the type of person. Solid guy, down to earth, humble, baseball man, the John Olerud type of personality.
like
Kid,
everybody likes him in the clubhouse.
everybody loves him.
Yeah.
Everybody respects him. He was a good player in his own right. I went to I believe he was in the bullpen with the Seattle Mariners, obviously getting high marks on the early impressions he made on that organization to even be in that position to get the opportunity. So yeah, I'm interested to see. Nothing any interaction I've ever had with him, and it hasn't been plentiful. I mean, it's been on a very limited basis, but I've got nothing but good things to say about Steve or about Voight and his personality, his vibe. He's got a really nice way about him. So that's all I can tell you on that edge. And obviously, he's highly thought of to be getting this opportunity this early into his post playing career.
Um, you're gonna have Boach on the podcast again, right? Because he's got to. It's got to be like one of those Jim Rome karma things when he used to be like,
Right.
"Oh,
He's got to feel
you
like
want
I
some
got to go on
jungle karma."
I got to go on Booney's podcast again. We won.
You
I'll
got,
probably get him back on.
yeah, you got to before Friday's World Series. What do you have on tap? You mentioned Trevor Hoffman.
Hoffy's out today. You know, I'm going to do a little roundup on Friday, just kind of going into the World Series and my thoughts, similar to what we're talking about right now. You know, the matchups next week. I don't know yet. I don't know.
Tito.
Maybe a Boch. Maybe I'll get a Diamondback. You know, maybe
Tito
I'll have a.
Francona. Tito Francona.
I'd
He's
love to have Tito on. Maybe I'll give Tito a call, but I might have somebody like a Gonzo.
okay.
Uh, because the last time the Diamondbacks were in this position and won was in 2001. Gonzo got the big hit. He was kind of the guy back then. He works with the Diamondbacks now. Maybe get some good perspective on this kind of this unbelievable run that they just went on, and I want to see from the guys that are with these guys all the time. That watched him for 162 games, not on the national uh, level like they are now, but he's been watching these guys since spring training, and maybe a guy like that isn't shocked of what they've done. So maybe get some perspectives from guys in Arizona, maybe get some guys that are close to the Texas Rangers to give their insight. Because let's be honest, as fun as we are, Chico, we get sick of hearing ourselves break down the postseason. I like to hear from other people and their perspective what they're seeing, not just my eyes.
Real quick, let me ask you on Trevor Hoffman. Now that you brought him up, and of course, Hell's Bells and great entrance. But you mentioned velocity, and there's a guy that, like, he didn't come in, and maybe I'm wrong, but he didn't come in and just blow you away. But he had arguably one of the best changeups ever. What would he top out with velocity wise?
Trevor early in his career is 94, 95.
Okay, so yeah, a little
when
bit.
he came up with that changeup, and the reason Trevor was so great is, first of all, back in that generation, the 90s, it was very rare for righty on righty changeups. That was kind of forbidden. Like, if you're a lefty, you throw your changeups to righties, you throw your breaking balls to lefties. Same with the right-hander. No, when I get a righty up there, I'll throw the breaking ball, and I'll throw my changeup, if I even have one, to the lefties. Trevor threw changeup to everybody. So it was something out of the ordinary. And I talked about this. What made him so great was you feared that changeup so much. Because still, the bottom line as hitters, and the number one most important thing is, yes, we get a lot of hits. It helps your team win. But we don't like to be embarrassed. And that changeup could embarrass you. So a lot of the times I'd be in the box going, whatever you do, don't let him throw you that Bugs Bunny changeup and make you look silly. So I'm going to sit on that changeup. And a lot of times, Trevor, that was kind of the time where Trevor would just paint the fastball away for strike one. He got a strike on it. He's still got that changeup in his belt, and you're still waiting on it. Where he's going to use it, you don't know. The one thing that isn't talked about, Trevor, is he was pinpoint. He was a Maddox type guy when it comes to control. So he could dot that fastball wherever he wanted. But it was that changeup. Let's be honest. That was just that weapon that nobody else had. We as hitters are trained, whatever your fastball is, and let's call your fastball 92, 93. We're pretty much trained for about 8 to 12 mile an hour differential from your fastball to your off speed. So if your fastball's 92, 93, your slider is probably going to be 82 to 85, somewhere in there. That's how we train as hitters. That's what we're used to. When you throw something at us out of the ordinary, a 15 mile an hour, a 17 mile an hour differential, that's where hitters have a lot of problems. That's where Trevor was so good. His arm speed on the fastball and on the changeup were identical. You couldn't tell the difference. The difference was, if he's 92 or 93 with his fastball, he could throw his changeup 73, 74 mile an hour. And we're just not used to that. That's what made him so great and so dominant. 600 saves. One of my best friends in the game, has been for a long time. As humble a guy as you possibly could be, for as great as he was for the Hall of Famer that he became. And just one of the great guys of the game who has some real interesting perspective. But it's it's like Edgar, the 2 batting titles and all the accolades that he has. Another one of my best friends, some of the most humble guys in the world, and it's tough to get anything out of him. I was talking to him on the podcast. He's like, yeah, Booney. And when you go to the All-Star game and you can't believe that you're in the All-Star game, like, I don't belong here. And you're kind of looking like, shut up. And some guys are doing that to just be self-deprecating.
Yes.
And some guys are doing it because it's how they really feel inside, which it just adds to what a good guy he is. But he's got a lot of great insight. And he's interesting I love talking to him when take me through the eyes of a pitcher, because I can talk the game up and down through the eyes of a hitter, but take me through the eyes of the pitcher. He gives a really good perspective.
And check
By the way,
yeah.
How's Bohm doing?
Well,
Bohm, you there? Bohm, you taking notes this morning? There's a lot of good crap here.
I am. I marked a lot of clips to have cut up,
There's
but also
a lot of good crap there.
I was really looking forward to hearing your insight on Stephen Vogt, and that I thought it was very insightful. So thank you, Booney. That was awesome.
I was really looking forward to hearing your insight, and I thought it was very insightful.
He knows the guy, Chico. Come on.
I give a thumbs up to Vogt. Good man. Good man.
Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna let this go. Because I was happy to see when Bohm, did what he did last night. I knew that you were kind of feeling.
You're talking about when he struck out and broke his bat over the plate and then kept breaking it all the way back? Is that what you're talking about, or when he hit the homer?
Actually, when he hit the homer, because Bohm was kind of,
I kind of knew that.
He really does. He really does like the. I think he likes everybody to believe that there is a blood relation. And there might be.
I was sad to see Bohm's run come to an end.
He was sad to see your run come to an end too.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was sad. You know why? Because I had such huge plans. You asked me about the podcast and who I'm going to have on. Well, I don't know now. I had a blockbuster podcast coming up, all set up, ready to go.
If the Phillies won.
If the Phillies had won.
And again, Bob, and I was telling, well, and you, okay, full disclosure here.
It's out of the bag now. You can bring it out now.
Yeah, we were back and forth talking last week. I think it was last Thursday, and like you were talking about Bob and Mike Schmidt, and Mike Schmidt was going to throw him the first pitch if it was if Phillies made it to the World Series, and I just want to point out that. You had to hang up and call me back, and then I had to hang up, call you back, and then you're like, all right, hey, I'll call you right back. And when you called me the last time, I was at the barber shop. And
that's right.
Yeah, here we go. See, Bohm, you used to do it. Fox used to do it at another establishment. You guys, when you're bald, you actually need, I don't shave it myself. So Booney did exactly what I expected him to do. He calls back. I'm like, Booney, I'm about ready to sit in the barber's chair. And he's like, why? because I'm getting my hair. Go.
Chico, let me flip it on you. If
Yes.
you called me and I said, Chico, what do you need? Yeah, hey Booney, where you at? And I said, I'm at the Big and Tall shop.
This is
fitted
not.
for
This is a
suit."
total BS story, right?
What
here.
would you say?
Oh, if you're at
Booney,
the. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I thought
I'm
you were,
at the Big and Tall shop getting fit. You'd be like, Booney, you're 5'10" on a good day. Yeah, but I got a size 17 shoe. It doesn't make sense.
See,
you at the barber, same thing.
It's kind of the bald fade thing. Like it's not a clean. And
Well, I got a buddy of mine in Arizona who plays in my Pebble Beach golf tournament, which is coming up.
Which I appreciate an invite for that.
He's bald as you, and he takes pride in it. He every morning before we go, get our practice routine, he's in there shaving his head. He goes, "Yeah, I never go to a barber. I do it myself." I figure all you bald guys do it yourself.
Yeah, if it were completely bald, like I'm talking scalp, then yes, I would. But I don't. So I have.
Well, when are you going to take it down to the dirt? Like just it's done.
I don't know. It's kind of already there, I guess. But
quit living the dream. Just
and that's just it. I have no problem with it. Like I know I'm bald.
Or you could go overseas and get like the full-on hair transplant. Cost you about $67,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I've never tried to shy away from the bald thing, but yeah, you guys need to understand.
I'll tell you what. As much as I joke about it,
yeah,
I am. You know me, and I'm a stickler for hair. If I lost my hair, I wouldn't know what to do. So
thanks, buddy. That doesn't make me feel any better. But yeah, it does. It kind of like it's been a while. I welcome it, but Ned, nobody can understand the barber thing. I'm going to have to get my barber on the show to explain exactly what he does.
What goes down?
Yes, I think we're going to do that. J-Ro's going to be a guest on the on the barber. My buddy, my barber Jason will be on the show. Booney, it's always a pleasure. The Trevor Hoffman podcast on the Brett Boone podcast went down, so check that out. Good stuff, and we'll do it again next week. Enjoy the World Series.
It.
All right.
See you guys. Thanks.
All right. We will take a break. When we come back, I'm going to get my hair cut. Boom, you had the same look on your face. And you, I think, knew that. You have heard those stories.
I had to think about it. But it makes sense.
It's just
yeah, no, I get it.
Like on the side kind of and in the back. I don't want to shave it every day, like down to the scalp. So like basically, here's the thing. Deep down, sincerely, I totally understand why. I would have the same reaction if I were me and me approached me and said, "Well, I can't right now. I've got to get my hair cut." I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, so we're good for 4." No, really, you have no hair. It's not the case. Not entirely the case. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we got an update from Berea. Get you set for that. And also a lot going on all across the Big Ten. Imagine when it was just Northwestern and their scandal, Michigan State. Now Jim Harbaugh, Michigan back in the news. And something I said yesterday as far as this little investigation, I think is actually going to pan out. We'll talk about it when we return and wind things down here in the last 20 minutes or so. The Chico Borman Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show as we roll through it on a Wednesday. Good to have you along here on the Big Play Sports Network. We stream it live on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, also on the YouTube channel, The Chico Borman Show. If you are a subscriber already, thank you. If not, hit that subscribe button. Thank you. And we'll be all set to go. Also now streaming live on iHeartRadio and wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, Spotify, wherever. All set to go. All right. I don't know if this is like necessarily newsworthy, but it's Wednesday. That means the Browns are back in the practice field, and that would mean theoretically that their quarterback, their starting quarterback, who is supposed to be Deshaun Watson, would be on the practice field. He didn't talk to the media. He did not practice today. I highly doubt he will play Sunday. This takes me back, and I said this on Monday, Bohm. The one thing that really shocked me, other than just the game itself, was Kevin Stefanski immediately after the game. Remember when he was like, yeah, he's our starting quarterback for Sunday. And I was like, what, where did that come from?
Yeah, and then Deshaun came out right after. It was like, I don't know about that. We'll see.
Yeah, Deshaun was like, well, I hopefully it's feeling better, or I hope I didn't do anything worse to it. And that's again, the exchange was so odd. And it's not. I'm not trying to create controversy or anything, but I think we all knew while that was playing out, and you're looking at Deshaun on the sideline, and obviously we're watching the game and hoping for a Browns win, but that was the story, and he knew as soon as the game ended that was the story. I don't think you move on. If you're a fan right now, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Arizona, whoever it is, like you're not looking at Deshaun Watson as a starter until you know for sure he's a starter. And like right now he's not. So until you hear he is 100% healthy, you see visual evidence of him being 100% healthy, then I don't think you can sit there and say, oh yeah, and as a fan I'm saying, oh yeah, Deshaun's probably going to play this weekend. Just assume he's out. Assume the worst, which right now is he's out. I guess that becomes P.J. Walker. Again, boom, it's early in the week. I mean, we've got a lot of days until Sunday and in Seattle, but I have heard a few rumblings about getting DTR more reps, leading to the idea of, hey, that Baltimore game, while we know he wasn't ready, and yes, and Andrew Berry, there's no other way to try to describe this or wash it clean and say that, oh, no. We didn't think he was ready for the season. That had nothing to do with the trade of Joshua Dobbs or anything like that. They bombed on it. I mean, Andrew Berry made a colossal mistake in trading Josh Dobbs. Now, again, did DTR look good in the preseason? Sure, but they put a little too much stock in that. Now, that said, I think now they're looking at every option. That's just it. I'm not going to fault Andrew Berry when I hear this, because I've had a few people chime back like, why the hell are we even entertaining thoughts of Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Well, because you have to entertain thoughts of DT. Everything's on the table. P.J. Walker's not a given. I mean, I've already said it. I don't think I feel any better with P.J. Walker than I do DTR. If DTR is going to get more reps and more preparation and not thrown to the wolves against the Ravens 90 minutes before kickoff, do I think he could do a decent enough? Well, I don't know. I mean, because my whole thing is turnovers. Both those guys are going to turn the ball over. That's why it's imperative and it's so important for Andrew Berry to find somebody, maybe a Jacoby Brissett, and bring him back in a trade from Washington. Would Washington do it? I don't know, but they've got to do something. But as far as Deshaun Watson goes, you can't count on him. this week. You can't count on him next week. Just consider him. He might as well be on injured reserve.
Let me ask you this, Chico. If you're the Browns, would you consider giving up like a 3rd-round pick for Jacoby?
A third?
You're obviously overpaying, but you have no leverage. And frankly, Washington has to be like shaking in their boots if they think that Sam Howell is going to last the whole season. You're probably going to have to pay more than you want to for someone in that position.
Yeah, boy, a 3rd rounder is, I mean, especially when you look at, and I understand other things went into it, like Amari Cooper, but like when you look at what they've been able to get. But you know what? You bring up a good point, and Shook brought it up on Tuesday, which, well, would have been yesterday. Quarterback position's entirely different. And the quarterback position's entirely different when, you're right, the leverage, like if the Browns don't have the defense they have, and they don't have the record they have, and they don't have the aspirations they have, expectations included, getting to the playoffs and whatnot, then yeah, you're probably like, not a big deal. All of that is in play. So the idea, I'm talking myself into it, even though I don't want to talk. And a lot of this stems from the Browns not having those 3 1s. I know I've said this a lot over the last 2 weeks. I'm not just dismissing the $230 million, but I guess selfishly, like as a fan, I don't give. Jimmy makes that, like I said, pumps 3 through 6 at that Austintown Pilot Flying J. That's probably 1 week. I mean, I'm being facetious, but the money I don't care about. The 3 number 1s. I mean, you're still trying to build, and you're always going to be building a franchise through the draft. Now, I know teams like the Rams have done it a certain way, and you're going all in, and that's fine, and that's where the Browns are at right now, so maybe that's their answer. Maybe you have to do that, even if it is a 3rd rounder. I don't know. Is there another package that you can put together? I'm not going to pretend to know that answer. I just know, as we proposed yesterday, and I'll say it again, you can't honestly go forward. If you're Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, look at the guys in the locker room and say, we feel 100% confident in P.J. Walker and DTR. You don't. You may say that. You have to say that. You don't feel that way. And you shouldn't, and nobody else does here in Northeast
It's
Ohio.
just impossible for anyone with a rational mind to feel comfortable with that. You would have to be totally blinded by Browns fever.
Which there are some that are out there
that
they absolutely feel that way, but no, it's not there. So we wait and see, but Deshaun Watson did not practice, did not talk to the media, and I wouldn't hold your breath on Sunday against Seattle or Sunday anytime soon, Sunday. So we shall see. All right, last thing I wanted to get to, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. This thing, much like Deshaun, every day there's seemingly like every few hours there's a new update. One of the things I talked about yesterday was this idea of how much does the NCAA have jurisdiction over this, and how much is this just a Big Ten, Tony Petitti, new commissioner, say? And now I'm starting to hear even more rumblings about that. It sounds like you're nodding your head. It sounded like you're seeing some of that as well.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that it also they ventured outside of the Big Ten, and so it's involving other conferences, which I think really complicates it and might even force the NCAA's hand.
Yeah, and which is scary, by the way. Now, the one thing I did hear is that if Tony Petitti makes a decision, and don't quote me on this because, again, it's the NCAA, that if it's not if it's a certain threshold, the penalty reaches a certain threshold, that the NCAA would then have jurisdiction to either say too much or too little. I get infuriated just thinking about that. I think it should be Tony Petitti's decision. I think it should be the other member schools coming out. Now, there has been talk the last few days like, oh, you know what? It's kind of like in baseball with the sign stealing and the or say scuffing the baseball. you hear tons of stories about this. Like, oh, World Series, I knew their guy was scuffing the baseball and doctoring the baseball, but I didn't want to say anything because, well, my guy was also doctoring the baseball. I think to some degree that's probably true. But again, with Michigan, they went the ultimate extreme with this, got the ultimate advantage seemingly with this. And this is where it's key. This is where you can't look away if you're the NCAA, who at times will do that. They come across at times as like the, man, this is how we govern it. But then, like, Jim Harbaugh in the past has kind of fought back, and they've cowered because it's like, oh, well, it's Jim Harbaugh and it's Michigan. And, well, okay, there's got to be somebody making the calls. So Jim Harbaugh he's notorious for throwing this in people's faces, whether it's the NCAA, whether it's the Big Ten, whether it's Jed York and the 49ers, whether it's Stanford and boosters. Like, he feels like he acts as though, and probably does deep down feel this way, like, I'm bigger than everything else. He's a great coach. I mean, you don't do the things he's done and turn things around the way he has at programs like Stanford, San Francisco, going to the Super Bowl. And I mean, he has proven that the dude knows what the hell he's doing. But what he's also proven, just as much as he's proven that, is that A, he's an acquired taste, and B, the shelf life for Jim Harbaugh might be like, well, he might have a shelf life. Some coaches, they're going to go as long as they – I mean, if Bill Belichick's able to get fired, Jim Harbaugh certainly is. But I don't know – this, to your point, Bohm, I don't know if Michigan wants to fire him. And I also don't think they would have to, because I think Jim Harbaugh would be like, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be, then I'll just walk away. I don't care. And he'll get his money somehow, some way. But, I mean, you can't – there's too many things lining up where you're saying, now they're – and this is where we're getting the deep dive. These are the updates now. Wow, if you go back to certain plays in the Ohio State game, if you go back to certain plays in the Penn State game, if you go back – now every team is doing this, but in Ohio State's case, it's like, oh, yeah, you can see Ohio State's pointing out to Petiti or whoever they're presenting their case to, I don't know, that, okay, look, here we call an audible or we change the play with hand signals. Now watch that Stallions character, whoever the hell he is. They're circling him, and he's immediately to the front of – he's right in the D coordinator's ear, whatever, and making them know, letting them know exactly what that play call is, making the proper adjustment, you would think. And wow, all of a sudden, Ohio State's kind of left baffled. Now, did they get beat in that game? Sure, they did. I mean, physically, everything. But, yeah, it makes it a hell of a lot easier, and it also explains why Ryan Day and C.J. Stroud, among others, left the game just completely befuddled. Like, okay, yeah, they outplayed us. Yeah, they deserved to win. But there was sometimes, oh, wait, that's what was going on? And, again, this isn't, I feel like Wendy here. You got the little Wendy meme going. 2020, after 2020, this guy he's on the hot seat. I mean, Michigan goes to him and says, we need you to take a pay cut. We're not going to fire you. We need you to take a pay cut. Harbaugh wasn't happy about that. Harbaugh, to the point of, recruiting efforts, and he's talking about Minnesota. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he's bigger. He always feels he's bigger than the program he's at. But they asked him to take a pay cut. Michigan was on the brink. And now all of a sudden they're number one in the country, and J.J. McCarthy is the Heisman favorite. Some of that might just be, hey, yeah, they've done a great job. But unfortunately, when you do something like this, it's why in baseball, say it again, it's why in Major League Baseball they have the rule about don't gamble on your team, don't gamble, period, Because if there's any gray, Pete Rose, well, I never bet on my team to lose. I never bet on my team to, anything like that. Okay, but if you don't make a certain move, there's always a gray area. And when it comes to the integrity of the game, you can't have gray area. And so right now, like, yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at. Like, did the integrity of these games come into question? And I don't know. Like, I'm not going to pretend to know what the suspension should be, will be, but I want it to come, my personal idea, I want it to be from the Big Ten. I want it to be from Tony Petitti. And I want it to be, in large part, the voices of those other schools in the Big Ten saying, you got to do something, because you do. I'm struggling with the idea of some teams doing that also, but not to that extent, and then not even trying to cover it up. Like, did Stallions even go by did he sign in as Ron Mexico when he like Michael Vick signed into the hotels? I don't think Stallions signed into the games for tickets as Ron Mexico. It was like, yeah, here's my name, Stallions. I'm with the Michigan Wolverines, and I want 2 tickets on the opposite side. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did say, so I can steal your signals. It was almost like it was that blatant.
Do you want to see wins vacated, Chico?
No, honestly, I don't. I don't like doing that. And whether it's, Hall of Fame guy, like I always say, like in baseball, I'm totally against, the steroids and all that. But guys that got in are in. Guys, now when you have a choice, I feel like it needs to be stopped. But you're opening up a whole new can of worms, and I hate doing that.
It's just wild to me that Ohio State would have wins vacated for like so much less.
Yeah, and it is. It's ridiculous. It's so much less egregious, but it happened, and I'm not going to. I don't like going, but right now they've got to do something. And to be honest with you, the first day you brought this up to me was, I think, last Friday. And it was so, like, just very on the surface. And I'm like, well, okay, everybody probably, I thought it was like at the game, and then you start figuring out how long it's been going on, exactly what happened. And now you've got, and the other thing is, Michigan, this is not an investigation where Michigan, hey, we need your cooperation. We don't need your cooperation, because we have Michigan State's cooperation, Penn State's cooperation, Ohio State's cooperation, 11 schools in the Big Ten sending us all the film evidence we need of you doing what you're alleged to have done. And I don't even think they're really, I don't know. Has Harbaugh even said anything about it? I think he said I had no knowledge of it, which, okay, well, yeah, whatever. I mean, we know that's BS. But again, he is a guy, and I think this plays a part. He's a guy that always throws it in the face of wherever he's been that, you know what, I dare you. Well, sooner or later, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. One of the reasons Pete Rose has never been in the Hall of Fame, and people kind of forget to talk about this. It's just, oh, Pete's been through enough. He wasn't the only one. Pete just continually lied about it. Pete just continually said to everybody, no, 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 no. And, and then finally when he thought he had an opportunity to slide in, okay, well, maybe I'll change. No. That's kind of the same thing Harbaugh is. Harbaugh, I'm bigger than the sport. No, you're not. No, you're not. How serious should it be? I don't know. We'll take a long break, because we're going to be here tomorrow at noon. We got a lot to discuss. Hopefully going to be talking to Eric Casilius, CBS Sports HQ. I know he said he was on a heater the last few weeks. Last week, everybody I talked to bombed last week. One guy I know went 10-3, and this is just for fun picks. I was 2-11. 2-11.
Oof.
But see, I'm not like others who pretend like they have inside information, or, here, let me give you the bets. I'll go with San Jose State -6. What do you know about San Jose State? Nothing. 0. Okay, but you've got them as one of your big play bet. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. We're out of time. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at noon. And Boom, you did a great job. Also, thanks to Brett Boone for joining us this past hour as well. And like I said, EK, we got Bill Landis later in the week, possibly Ari Wasserman from The Athletic covering college football and this whole Jim Harbaugh fiasco. Until tomorrow at noon, folks, make it a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. See ya.